Podcast board. Nope. Burp. Has been pushed. All right. I'm Reese Wood, and this is the most important podcast in the world. Episode 1. And on this first episode, we're going to talk to a personal friend of mine, Billy Jones. Billy wanted to talk about fasting, and I wanted to start podcasting. And podcasting wasn't starting, so Billy said he wanted to start a podcast about fasting. And I was going to help him do that, and I said, you know what, better yet, let's do a podcast about fasting on my new podcast, the most important podcast in the world. So that's how this episode happened, episode 1. It was not an easy episode to get to, but here we are. I hope you enjoy. Most important podcast, episode 1. And I think I'm host Reese Wood here.
Pretty sure you are. You look like him.
Man, thank you. Billy Jones with me, today's first guest on this thing we're doing, the most important podcast in the world. It's crazy.
Exciting.
How did I get this most important position to... Still can't figure it out. I think there was like a big check that came in an email, and it was from some random country that I've never heard of. And I responded to the email, and I said, yeah, I'll do the host spot. I think they got my bank information, though, so...
Okay.
Dang. All right, so we're going to talk about health today, right?
Overall health.
More specifically, fasting?
Yep. That's what I've been into since February, somewhere around February.
I saw it. So you post on social media a lot about fasting, and this is something, I know we've talked about it. I'm at a point where, like, I'm thinking my health could use some kind of improvement. I'm wondering, like, I'm kind of desperate. I'd do almost anything to take a step in the right direction.
Fasting would be a good first step.
So tell me, like, when did you realize what was it you were like, now I'm gonna start fasting? You know, there's all the options in the world, working out, just diet change, but this actually is some kind of diet change. When did it start for you? Like, where was it?
Well, I've been kind of into the healthy eating thing for a while. I was really into Dr. Sebi's alkaline diet. I saw some benefits from that. So over the years, I was just kind of focused on diet, even more so than exercise. That's a whole nother conversation, exercise and diet. But I've been kind of sedentary, and I felt like, for some reason, food is the way to go. I didn't really appreciate exercise as much as I do now. But pretty much to answer the question, pretty much just like just to stay healthy, kind of self-diagnosing, self-treating myself for different things, and I don't really honestly remember exactly where I pinpointed and ran across fasting, but I'm pretty sure it was somewhere on the YouTube. I ran across it, and I started going down that same rabbit hole. Like when I started studying the alkaline and Dr. Sebi, I went down that rabbit hole, and fasting is just another rabbit hole that I'm currently journeying.
It's weird how people come at. I mean, I kind of arrive at the same conclusion you did. When you got something going wrong with you, you're not feeling right. You start with, I am what I eat, right?
Yeah.
Like, so why it seems so common, and like a lot of people come to that conclusion. Obviously, a lot of people don't come to that conclusion too.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we arrive at these spots. We're, conscious of it to a degree until our health catches up with us. Some of us become self-aware and try to make a change, but it's definitely not a thing that everyone's aware of at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And we end up in these spots. Was there, like, any certain foods that you were like, these foods are the ones that I know are leading me down a bad road where I'm not feeling good? Or
Sugar.
I
self-diagnosed myself with chronic inflammation. I think I self-diagnosed that was somewhere around like February. I started studying. I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a lot of symptoms I'm having. You know what I mean? And what I was studying was relating sugar to inflammation. And when I started noticing the when I don't eat sugar, I have less pain, and when I do eat, I have more pain. And then yep, that just took me farther down the rabbit hole.
Just paying attention, just trying to be self-aware, and
yep. And I think that's where the fasting kind of came along when I was learning about the inflammation, and I learned that fasting was a way to treat the inflammation.
Yeah.
And it was working. It started to work, so I continues to do it.
The crazy thing about sugar, and I'm sure you've read this, is there's all these, like let's say you're drinking alcohol.
Yep.
It's a type of sugar, right? It messes with your blood sugar in your body. There's all kinds of things that we consume that are not direct sugars that will have those types of sugary effects on your body, and they're in everything. So it's like, where do you start? Did you start with trying to avoid the sugars, and like what foods helped you do that?
Well, like I said, I initially started with the healthy food stuff with the Dr. Sebi diet, with the alkaline diet. So when I was doing that and I saw benefits from it, with that diet, it doesn't avoid sugar. There are sugary substances in that diet. It's more alkaline, where you want your pH to be more alkaline than acidic.
Gotcha.
So, what was the question again? Because I feel like I'm
So yeah, no. So basically, sugary stuff, all the different things we consume, it's so hard to keep up with because it comes in so many different forms. But was there something that helped you initially kind of go, yeah, sugar's a big problem for me. Maybe this. What did you test out with, or was there different foods, or what did you have to do to get away from sugar?
Well, cheesecake is my weakness. I would almost say it still is my weakness right now. Like if I got to go for anything sweet, it would be a cheesecake. Some people go for the soda. Yeah. Some people go for the brownie. I'm going for the cheesecake.
Right.
So and it was a daily thing. It's crazy when I think about it now, like how I avoid it, and in my regular everyday life, after I eat, I got to go for something sweet. It was like the routine. You got to go for dessert now. You know what I mean? So once I started eliminating the sugar and I started feeling the difference, and it wasn't a huge difference. Like right now, I barely have any inflammation. I barely feel any inflammation ever. And back then, like I would feel slightly better. Yeah. And like when I avoided the cheesecake, I would feel slightly better. Right. So that would be the one.
Oh man, cheesecake, that is the worst. Yeah, I told you, we've been baking birthday cakes, and it seems like because we got 5 kids, it's a birthday cake, every other month, and it's hard to avoid. I know we have a daughter with a eating type issue, and it's part of a syndrome she has. So she's always having to look out for extra foods. One thing she did differently was, hey, it's her birthday, she wants fruit instead. Even in fruit, you're getting lots of sugar, right?
Yeah. But it slows, the fiber in the fruit will slow it down so your liver can process it a little bit better.
Metabolize it more properly. That makes sense.
But like you said, it's still sugar. Sugar is sugar is sugar. Honey, agave, corn syrup, table sugar, apples. Sugar is sugar is sugar when it breaks down into your system.
It's one of those things that sugar really does. It's an addiction thing. A lot of people don't think about the Midwestern diet and how much sugar's really been a part of it for so long. Yeah. Like you said, people got to have a dessert after their meal. Yeah. And I know people, it's been breakfast, and they're going to have dessert after breakfast. Yeah. Because it's the Midwest. Yeah. And so we got a sugar issue definitely with a lot of
breakfast foods are. Before I say about the breakfast foods, I want to jump right into carbohydrates, because carbohydrates also break down into sugar in your blood. So we get enough carbohydrates already without the extra sugar, and breakfast foods are mostly all carbohydrates. I mean, you got bagels, you got biscuits, you got pancakes, you got French toast. Everything sounds so delicious right now. But breakfast foods are very high in carbohydrates, high sugar. So if you can avoid if you can miss a breakfast every now and again, that might help a little bit.
That's why I was going to ask you. Is that why they call it a breakfast?
Break fast.
Because you're breaking your fast. They set up all those delicious carbs and everything to break your fast.
Yeah. You're fasting overnight while you're sleeping.
Yikes.
Yeah, while you're sleeping, you're fasting.
Yeah, that's where they get me too. Because breakfast, there ain't nothing better than a double chocolate donut.
There you
and
go.
it ain't the right way to start your day, I guess.
Donut and coffee.
Man.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I was that guy. I mean, that was my breakfast for. I mean, as far back as I can remember. I mean, I'm a regular person. You know what I mean? You go for the donut, you go for the coffee. You don't think anything of it. It makes you feel alert and ready to go.
Totally. I think there was something I read about coffee. There's a type of, often they find a mycotoxin or a small amount of some kind of toxin that is usually found in coffee that makes you crave something sweet. If you haven't had it with the coffee, you're going to want it. So that's why a lot of people put sweeteners in their coffee, or they got to have, their carbs with their coffee or something.
Yeah. And
Donut with the coffee.
From my research, coffee is actually healthy in a
Not
lot
bad
of ways.
for you.
It's once we start adding all of that extra stuff to make it a Starbucks. You know what I mean? That's what makes it the sugary devil's drink that it is.
That's what
I
you
mean?
see
But
at Starbucks. I want to get 3/4 of sugar with a little bit of cream and about 1/3 of some coffee in there.
a straight black coffee. People who in this fasting world that I'm
That's
studying,
how to live.
we drink black coffee while we're fasting.
Yep.
So yeah,
You know what goes good with it? A little bit of ice. That's it.
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
There are ways to get that sweet taste too that won't spike your blood sugar. You got monk fruit, you've got stevia. Those are the two main ones that I hear people talk about that don't really spike your blood sugar as much as the other ones.
Monk fruit, yeah, I've seen that going around. And definitely the stevia, that's been around for a while, but I always get, I don't know about you, there's like a side taste to it, the artificial taste, and you'll get that sometimes in like a diet soda or something. Some people notice that. Always stands out to me.
I've heard a lot of people say that. People, even in the fasting world, they say they don't like the stevia in their coffee, don't like the way it tastes. Right. I've personally never had that. I mean, I got a natural coconut oil is great.
That's the way to do it.
Got a natural. You can put coconut oil in your coffee, and they call it a bulletproof coffee.
That's what we do. We do that. Sometimes it takes too much work to do it, but and then the coconut oil, that stuff is not cheap. No. So that's the other thing. By the time you buy a good coffee that wasn't, industrial made to sit on a shelf for at least 5 years, if you get fresh beans that were roasted within the last 6 months, you're really lucky. But then to put some expensive coconut oil in it, then you got a really good coffee.
That's all expensive, man. I do it the MCT oil, which is the medium chain triglyceride. Mm-hmm. It's they filter the coconut oil, and they take. Well, pretty much, they take I don't want to say the wrong word. They take something out of it, so it's just like you get the concentrate, and that's $13 for a liter.
They get you. That's $13. That might last you a month, right?
Maybe not me.
2 weeks.
Not me. Not fasting. Maybe. Well, but let's give it a week and a half. Right.
So
let's give it a week because I put it on everything.
That's gonna bring me to a good question, and I'm sure, because I feel like, so when you fast, are you starting by just cutting everything out, or are you actually just reducing everything as much as you can right away? Would you just cut everything out right away?
It would depend on. I would say before you make that decision, learn yourself and what kind of person you are. If you are a person who can just go straight, cut it out, then do that. If you're a person who tends to go into things a little more slowly, then I would say work your way into it. Go calorie restriction first before you even start fasting. Just calorie restriction.
Slow it down. Restrict it.
Maybe try to restrict yourself to 500 calories, and you will see that 500 calories is oh my God, that's not very much food.
One thing I was going to say is me and you have never been, I don't know if you've ever been considered an overweight guy at any point in your life. I know I haven't, but there was a time when I was 220, maybe a little bit more than that. Right now I'm like 170, but never been considered overweight, and I know there's times where I feel like it, like you said, inflamed. You feel an inflammation in you, and it makes you feel unhealthy if you're aware of it. There's a lot of just not wanting to be aware of it, and keep trucking with life. But that awareness.
Yeah, and there's also a lot. Even when you get aware of it, it becomes a part of you, and you don't even care anymore. It's like, oh shit, I'm gonna feel like shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you just
I'm gonna
deal
feel
with
that way no matter what. Give me my
you
coffee.
You walk through the day, you feel like shit, and you do your coffees, you do your things that give you quick little pickups now and then you go back to feeling like shit.
Yep. 6 months later, you're regretting everything.
Yeah.
I know. But so
I'm sorry. Before we go too far, let me to clarify a little bit more about the question that you asked. There are different kind of fasts. So I don't want to I say fast, and I might be talking about a fat fast. I might be talking about a water only fast. I might be talking about a intermittent fast. I might be talking about a prolonged fast. There are different fasts. So a few days ago, I did a 3-day. I call it a fat fast, where I was doing I wasn't counting the calories, but it added up to about 500-600 calories a day. But it was all oil. It was all fat. It was avocado oil and coconut oil. Yeah. So I did that, and right now I'm currently in a water only fast. So there are different fasts for different goals. Sense. Different goals that you got.
So when a fast goes wrong, or when you've broke your fast, something's gone bad. I know you had this happen recently. You were posting about it. It's gonna happen, right?
Oh yeah, especially when you're learning.
So what does it feel like? Is it like every other failure in your life? You're like, I've ruined everything.
Could.
What's it like?
I'm one of those jump back on the horse regardless kind of guys, and it's because I've always learned by making mistakes. So So once I bump my head, I jump right back on the horse. It's not like, oh, I ruined my life, because I also feel like I'm so deep into it right now. I'm not gonna say there's nothing I could do wrong at this point, but it's like once you got something so good going, you got a little bit of wiggle room.
That's right.
You got a little bit of wiggle room, and when you try to be as strict as possible, that wiggle room is still in the area of being healthy. So, but when I do mess up my fasts, so this time it didn't. The inflammation didn't come back. The pain didn't come back. This is the first time it did not come back. Nice. But usually when I break the fast the wrong way, I do a cheesecake, or I do a burger, or Taco Bell, or
box of Little Debbie's, right?
Jim's Pizza.
Jim's Pizza.
Yeah. When I do that, usually I'll feel it like within the first 5 hours, and it'll deter you. Like, I'm not gonna do that again next time. So this time it did not impact me that much, but instead of feeling like, okay, I can continue to do this, it was motivation. Okay, next time I break my fast, I'm going to do it the right way, because I want to see what it feels like to actually do things the right way. You know what I mean? I've never had that experience before. I've been, you get the knowledge, and then you get some of the experience, but then you hear about the benefits. Right. I want to see some of those. See what that feels like,
Do you feel more energized? Because that seems like one of the number one things people say is you feel a lot, obviously lighter, but do you feel more energized in general?
You feel ups and downs. I'm not gonna paint a picture of fasting as you feel good all the time. Right. And there are times you feel extremely bad, and then there are times you feel extremely good. Right. But it just it makes you appreciate life that much more, because the pain is that much more painful, and the joys are that much more happy.
Food. When you come back to actually, when the times you're not fasting, you go through your fast and you're leveling things out, it would seem obvious, but does it seem like your senses are more heightened or
yes.
aware,
yeah.
tastes are more available?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Everything tastes better. Your vegetables taste better. Your healthy foods taste better. Your cheesecakes taste better. Anything that you eat after fasting is going to taste better than it did if you're eating every 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, that's critical. And these are things everything we do in life, I know there's so many people out there because it's a fast-paced world. We're all doing a lot of everything all the time. Anything we do, we're doing a lot of everything we do. But food, it is such a common thing, especially like I said here in the Midwest. People are overdoing it, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see that sometimes, but food is readily available, but it's a lot of it's not nutrient dense, right? We got a lot of snack foods available. We got a lot of empty nutrient foods.
Yep.
So we get people with diets and diet problems that are stemmed from consuming these foods. It's confusing times, right?
Yeah,
Confusing.
And then food is a social part of life. I mean, dinner brings us together as a family. You know what I mean? Anytime you wanna you barbecue to have a good time. You know what I mean? It's not you want to say it's not about the food. It's about the social interaction, but it's so merged. The food and the social interaction is so merged. Once you start doing things like fasting or even a diet change, you become socially awkward just because you're doing something different with food.
Right.
You know, they got these guys that do the carnivore diet now. I was doing the alkaline thing. I was never perfect with the alkaline thing with Dr. Sebi. But I was pretty plant based. So when you get your mind focused on one way, when you get these guys doing this carnivore thing, you're looking like, oh, these guys are crazy as hell. They're eating nothing but meat. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the further you do the investigation on it, it's like, okay, they might look at vegans like they're going too extreme. You know what I mean?
Right.
And some things are for some people, and some things are not. Hey.
I tried. I know I've told you this before. It was like 2 years ago. I tried no meat for. I think I made it almost 3 months.
Okay.
I can't say I was feeling bad, but I don't know if it. I would say I did feel obviously more easily mobile, but maybe 3 months into it, I'm eating like the veggie burgers are good, like the Boca burgers if you cook them right. They replace that for you. There's skillets, vegetable skillets where you're having potatoes. Potatoes themselves, people do the potato diet just to.
Yeah, and that's another one that I look at it like, what are you doing? But hey, I don't got enough research on it, so I'm not going to judge.
That's what I'm saying. There's so many things out there, and it's interesting because everybody is different, and it's at some point you got to do whatever it takes for you to do something.
And it takes a while to figure out what that is for you, and it might change over time. I mean, it might be a time in your life you go through where you want to do no meat, but then, like you said, you didn't say, you said there were times where I felt a little bit better, but I sensed the undertones. When you do those things, you're deficient in other areas. Right. When you do all vegetables, you're deficient in other areas. When you do all meat, you're deficient in other areas. Yep. So you got to really learn your body and learn how to cope with these deficiencies, because that's why supplements are out there. It's to supplement the things that we're not getting in our diet. So I mean, sometimes you gotta use those supplements, and the argument with that is if you gotta use a supplement, then it's not a good diet. You know what I mean? But hey, look at the world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, well, we know because of the way we farm things that we have to pump artificial chemicals and artificial things into our crops just to give them everything that we're used to having, just to keep them growing. And so we're not getting the nutrient dense foods that we were always getting historically in our DNA, even if it was sparse back in our DNA. Our ancestors, even if they only ate a little bit of this or that, they were still getting nutrient dense stuff when they ate it. And it's really not the same anymore. But
let's talk ancestors for a while, man. Because
absolutely.
Our ancestors, they lived off, well, let's conceptually, I wasn't there, but feast and famine. Yeah. They would go through times where they might go through a 3-month famine.
Right.
They would not eat for 3 months or barely eat for 3 months. And then when it's in season, they would be able to eat. You know what I mean? They would eat the fruits that are in season or whatever they come across. I've seen the argument, like some people say, oh, our ancestors never ate meat. They lived off the land. They ate in the forest. Maybe
so.
we weren't there. We don't know what happened. You know what I mean? I'm sure somebody got hungry enough at some point in time and killed an animal and they ate it, and they noticed that it was sustaining them, and they continued to do it. We don't know what our ancestors did, but we do know that our ancestors lived in times of scarcity, where we live in times of abundance.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's a totally different world nowadays, and the feast and famine was those guys were living longer. They were healthier. You know, their body knew what to do. Our bodies are so confused and overwhelmed. Our bodies don't even know what to do.
A lot of natural fasting phases is what you're saying for our ancestors. They probably did have, like you said,
Yeah.
famine times where it was not available. There was nothing really there. You were just trying to survive to make it to your next thing, whatever could come up.
They were
Even
starving.
water.
Yeah, that's starvation. And that's what fasting is, mimicking starvation. Starvation, you have no control over it. If you got no money, no resources, no job, no food, you know, you're gonna deal with some starvation every now and then. But fasting is controlled. Starvation is out of your control. Fasting is a way to mimic the benefits of that, but controlled.
So, misconceptions of fasting. You must have had people come up to you and tell you something that was just like off the wall wrong about it. Anything you can think of?
Yeah. Good friend of mine, Tone Montana, told me that if you can't go 3 days without food.
Oh man, there you have it.
He said you'll die. He literally told me, he said, man, you'll die. I've done 80 hours. I've done 79 hours. I've done 80 hours. I've done 81 hours. I'm not dead. You know, so I mean,
Surprisingly, you're here.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about fasting. I love Tone, by the way. That wasn't a shot. Love you, Tone. That was just a yeah. A lot of misconceptions about fasting out there. Yeah. We don't have to eat as much as we do.
Yeah, I know that's my big thing. I mean, I don't know if it's 5 kids growing up here in the Midwest, and there's just so many things that'll put you on that path of wanting to overeat and also not be aware of it at all. And there's, like, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people here, probably good examples of people who just, they work a lot or they're busy a lot, and the fasting comes naturally. I know I've had times in my life where that was the case. I was just too busy. Like,
to eat.
Yeah, I mean, you'd eat a little snack here and there, but mostly busy. But when you're not busy, that's when it gets you. And there's a certain time or a certain thing happens to us, and we're unaware of it, that how not busy we are or how mentally unoccupied we are. Mm-hmm. And we turn to that, like you said, that easily, readily available food, the empty calories. Yeah. And it's the worst thing. Yeah. Because it'll have you wanting to sit on your couch even longer. Yeah. It's that compound factor, man.
A lot of times when I get deeper into the fasts, like the 80-hour fast, the once I get that far, what I've noticed is I don't break my fast because I'm hungry. A lot of times it's I'm bored. It's like, you know, oh man, I just want that. You know what I mean? Right. And I break my fast, and like I said, at first you feel like, oh man, I shouldn't have did that. It wasn't worth it. But it's not the end of the world. You know, like I jump back on the horse and I go back again.
The reason people turn to overeating, and I think, like I was saying earlier, neither one of us have probably been considered overweight at any point, but I can tell you from personal experience, there are so many times where I want to turn to, you know, one snack after another, and without even really being aware of it, because and I see my kids do it sometimes where they're just, you know, they're gaming, and in between gaming they go from one snack to another, and it almost seems like a mental inoccupancy, like there's something autopilot's going on.
What it is it's called insulin resistance. Insulin is what is used to regulate the sugar in your blood. Right. So when you eat so much sugar, it spikes the insulin, and when you do it so much, it's like the insulin gets tired of you. The insulin's like, I'm not going to keep responding every time you put this fucking donut in your mouth. So you get insulin resistant.
Yeah.
So the more sugar you eat, the more insulin resistant you become. And it's just like an ongoing cycle. And that's what that is when we get those cravings or when we feel like I want to go for the snack. It's actually insulin resistance.
Wow. Man. I'm gonna, these are things I never even looked up, and I got people in my family that are diabetic and serious diabetic health issues, and you would think I would take this more seriously, but like I said, it's only been lately where I'm like, I'm not feeling like I'm moving right. I'm 37, about to be 38.
Young man.
Yeah, and I shouldn't be feeling this sluggish or slow. And
I was there, bro.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
And like I said, you live with it. You deal with it. You get that sluggish, and it's like, I don't know at what point in my life I hit that sluggish point. Because, obviously, we grow up, we're teenagers, we're energetic, we're gung-ho, we want to go do everything. But at some point in time, you just want to sit down, smoke a blunt.
Game.
Eat
do some gaming or something.
Yeah, you just want to chill. You become sedentary. And I don't know at what point in my life that actually happened, but I do know for a good majority of these years, I've been walking around feeling sluggish and tired. Constantly. Even when you think you got energy, the energy is coming from the coffee that you drunk, or the sugar that lasts for 2 hours and gives you a little bit of energy. But I was always sluggish for years.
That rebound, though, when you get that rebound after feeling like that for so long, even if it's for the day, when you're feeling that, like you said, there's ups and downs, there's good days, bad days. I can tell you on the good days, they are so great. It's like a religious experience from what I've had. There was times where my health was so good that I was eating so right, and all I wanted to do was tell everyone, like, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, a religious experience.
Yeah.
You were like,
that's how I felt with the Dr. Sebi thing. When I saw benefits, I just wanted to tell everybody about it. And then when I started the fasting, I wanted to tell everybody about it. It's like, but you can't. You don't. You want to talk to the people who are receptive, because you're going to have an adverse effect if you try to jam your beliefs down somebody else's brain.
Yeah, like most
brain
things, right?
tube, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Working out and fitness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big workout guy. I don't know about you, but when you got energy, what are you trying to do? Like, do you find time for fitness, or is it something that's kind of secondary? How's that working?
Well, through my research, I've been, and not just research, common sense. I've always known that you should exercise. And when I was younger, I was actually pretty. I'm not gonna say athletic, but I made sure I stayed in shape. I do my push-ups. I would do my weights. You make sure you stay active. I was pretty healthy. But like I said, you transition to what you are, what you eat. You transition to that. And I'm not a gym fly. I'm not a diehard workout guy. Right. I might be becoming one. I got a gym membership. I'm still within I've been going to the gym for 10 days.
Nice.
So that's how recent I've been not sedentary. I've been not sedentary for 10 days now. I've been actually getting some exercise. So when you do have energy, you got to be, when you fast the way that I fast, you have to really be careful what you do, how much you do it, when you do it, related to the fast, where you are in your fast, and low intensity. What I've been doing at the gym, I do a lot of biking, do a lot of walking on the treadmill. When I do get those energy boosts, I'll jog. I've probably jogged about 3 times in the last 10 days where I had to boost the energy to jog. Was that last night? Last night and a couple nights ago, I did the battle ropes, where you grab the ropes.
Those look serious.
Oh yeah, you do the battle ropes. Yeah. You do the I looked up exercises with the battle ropes. Yeah. When you got the energy, you do as much as you can. I lifted weights last night. Which right now in my mind is the reason why I was debating whether or not to break my fast again, because I did lift weights.
You knew you were pushing some calorie intake. You're gonna need something.
Especially with weightlifting. Once you lift weights, you're gonna need to you need to get some protein in there to repair that.
Yeah.
So I'm in a, I don't want to say dangerous situation right now. Okay, I lifted weights. I was about, let's say, like 16 hours into a fast. So I mean, but now I'm a little bit over 24 hours into a fast, and I didn't replace that protein. I didn't eat any protein. So I've been debating all day, like, should I eat some protein to break my fast and then go back in and just not lift any more weights? Or as I'm listening to my body, and what I kind of realized is, dude, you're not even strong enough to push yourself hard enough to hurt yourself right now. So I'm going to continue my fast. I'm not going to break my fast, but I'm not going to do that again either. Next time I lift weights will be at the end of the fast, when I know I'm going to be eating within the next couple of hours. I'm not going to do this again. But I do feel comfortable knowing myself and just feeling my own body out. I wouldn't recommend anybody else ever do this ever. Don't ever lift weights and then fast for 2 more days. Don't do it. I'm going to do it because I feel like I've been out of the loop for so long. Whatever weights that I say I lifted last night, you wouldn't even feel it. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm so weak right now. There's no way I can push myself hard enough to hurt myself. I wanted to wake up sore this morning, and I did not. So I'm like, oh, well, you feel good? Keep going.
Man, that's hard.
I don't know if I could do it. I'll be honest. Like that during a day, I'll find myself, we wake up maybe around 6 o'clock, around 8:30. I usually have something small. It could be like a bowl of oatmeal. It could be a piece of peanut butter toast. It could be like we eat these organic figs, a fig Newton kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like a breakfast bar, something like that. But we keep it really small most of the time. But that's around 8:30. And then we hit lunchtime. And I'm probably overeating at lunch because we'll do anything from like a hot sandwich from somewhere around here to like a piece of pizza from Casey's down the road, because their pizzas, I don't know what's right with it, but something's really right with it.
I remember thinking that when they first opened up too. I'm like, oh, it's a gas station pizza that tastes like this.
It's weird.
But over the year, yeah, it's not. It doesn't hit the same as it did when I first discovered Casey's Pizza. Me personally.
But yeah, so I just feel like there's totally too many opportunities to want to overeat, and the world's filled with like stuff that's like totally tempting.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like I was saying about that religious experience, you're gonna feel different at some point. Not all the time, like you said, but at some point you get these plateaus and these upper areas where you're feeling pretty decent here and there, and it totally is worth it. And all I can remember is even now, where I'm not on any kind of health track, no specific diet, nothing, I'm still looking back to those times where I was doing what you were doing, close to it, and totally remembering how beneficial it was.
Yeah.
And you just never forget that. I don't know if there's ever been anybody who tested out with, trying to modify their diet, cut back on some bad foods. I don't think anybody ever regretted any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd love to hear from somebody.
Far and few in between. Well, I mean, I will say this, Reese. I might know you better than you know yourself, because you just said, I don't know if I can do it. I know you could do it.
For a time, yeah.
Unfortunately, the thing that makes most people motivated is like a drastic experience. When your back is against the wall and you have to change your diet. When the doctor tells you, hey, dude, if you don't do something different, you got 3 months to live. Then you realize, okay, now I can do this. But when you're comfortable, you know what I mean, you're chilling and you're living your everyday life, and you know that you should change these things, like, it's not that big of a deal. But when you are in that situation where you got a allegorical gun to your head, and you got no choice, then you can do it. You just got to put yourself in that mentality. You got to mimic that. You know what I mean? Like how we mimic starvation. Mimic that doctor's visit, where the doctor tells you, hey, dude, you got 3 months to live if you don't change this shit.
Yeah, you turn your life into a real-life Pictionary of what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. There's definitely things times, like you said, tribulations, things that happen to us, and we will reconsider everything. And that starts with you are what you eat.
Yeah.
Who said that? Because that is like one of those things that everybody, I think, knows that.
Yeah.
But I've always been surprised how little people reflect on that easy statement. You are what you eat.
Yeah. And fasting it's a tool that the way that I fast is I wouldn't recommend anybody do it. There's no reason for most people to do it like this. I mean, it's good to start off. I mean, if you can just go skip a meal, choose which meal to skip and just start there.
Right.
Some people, most people, believe it or not, they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Most people are not even hungry in the morning.
I've noticed there's days where
Yeah.
I wake up and that's the easiest time to be busy.
Yeah.
Right. So
Out of habit and
Yeah.
insulin resistance, we grab that donut, grab that coffee, you know. Or if it's a special occasion, we sit down with the family, eat the pancakes, and
especially if you got a desk job. If you're sitting at a chair for the next 8 hours, you need something to eat while you're at that desk.
Yeah. What else you gonna do?
Yeah. You can't hunt down bison or hunter gatherer nothing for the first 5 hours of your day.
Yeah. So I mean, to start off, and I want to jump back to that because I realize when I'm talking from a perspective of a person who's doing extreme fasting.
Right.
To the point where even the research that I do, you rarely come across anybody who recommends fasting as much as I do.
Or doing it in an extreme way in any way, right?
You rarely come across any. I'm so careful with my research. It's like, okay, I can walk this dangerous line if I be careful. You know what I mean? So I'm walking a dangerous line, but I'm being very careful, and it's benefiting me.
Are you like me or like most people? You get online and you start Google. And you're like one resource to the next, and before you know it, you've ingested everything.
My YouTube algorithm takes care of it for me.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't got to look. Well, every once in a while I'll search something, but usually I'll go through and I'll click, and then whatever I'm looking for or something that just spark my interest, and I'll watch that. And these podcasts are so long; they're like 2 hours long, and I watch the same ones over and over and over again because I don't speak that language. I'm not a doctor. I didn't study biology. Well, we all had the class in high school, but we don't remember these things. So when I watch these podcasts or watch these doctors speak, I watch the same. I know when my kids walk in, they're looking like, "Were you just watching that yesterday?" Yeah, I was, because they're talking another language and I'm learning that language. So you got to watch the same things over and over sometimes. And also, you go back and you realize that you have the wrong understanding. So it could send you down a completely wrong track. And also, this is research that is not really proven. It's all anecdotal. So it's a huge experiment that you're doing on your own self. Either way it goes. So,
You brought me to something. First episode of Most Important Podcast, and one of the driving things for me, one of the one facts of life, there's less that we know and more that we don't know. All those things need to be. You just said something that totally made me think of that, and that is what we're trying to do in every episode on this is talk about the things that are unknown, possibly, because there's so little we know, and we imagine that we're living in a world where we know most things about what's going on around us. There's less that we know, more that we don't know.
I'll tell you what, Reese. The only way to know something is to experience it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a concept that you're looking at.
And find out for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Don't take everybody else's advice.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, your health choices might be different than what the next person should choose, but everybody needs to choose for themselves at some point.
Yeah.
Like, is today the right day to start? When is the right time? What am I going to do? All these things vary depending on who you are.
Man, it gets so deep. I was having a conversation with the guy at the gym last night. He was slacking off. I was slacking off. I was slacking off on my workout. He was slacking off on his cleaning. But we got into this conversation, and what he was explaining to me was, I mean, even to the point where, like I said, there's no proof of this. It's all anecdotal. But blood types might determine like what you like. I can't remember, but like O blood type, he noticed that most of those guys, they can do a carnivore diet. And like a B blood type, those guys, they can do a vegan diet. But last night was the first time I ever heard this, but your blood type may actually determine what you can do as far as your diet. You know what I mean?
But don't take our word for it. Check it out.
You have to. Do not take my word for anything.
Yep. It's like Joe Rogan. Everybody thinks, he's the gatekeeper of facts, but pretty much every time I watch him, he's not sure if he's right. I'm not sure either. Like I said, refer back to the last thing. Go 5 minutes back and remember there was a part where we said there's more going on that we don't know, less that we do know. Yeah. And that's a hard fact of life.
It's a fact. And the thing is, there's more going on that we don't know inside of our own body. We don't know. We have no way of knowing what's going on in there. You know what I mean? Yep. I mean, scientists know. But even they know based off research of studying 500 people, and they'll use that to say, okay, this is what's going on inside of your body. That 501st person that you test, that's not going on inside of their body.
Right. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Man.
So what is next? I know you're trying to keep on the same track on a decent path, but like you said, the path is unclear. The path could change any time. What's your plans right now? What are you trying to do?
I'm currently I currently have a goal of doing at least a 1 week fast. And that's because right now, I started off 16 and 8. Pretty much skipping a meal. That's how I started off back in February, fasting 16 and 8. And that's sustainable. You can do that every day of your life. If this is the first time you hear about fasting, that probably sounds crazy as hell. Going 16 hours through the day with no food. But any human being can do that, and your body will adjust to it, and you will feel better. I guarantee it without blinking my eyeball. I guarantee you can go 16 hours without food, and you will start to feel better. So I started off with the 16 and 8. Bumped my head with that over the months. Found out some new information over the months about my personal health. And I started doing a little bit longer fasts. I was able to go to one meal every 24 hours. And then once I conquered that, it almost became like second nature. The 16 and 8 becomes second nature. It's like, okay, from whatever time you eat, you count 16 hours, and then you eat again. Me personally, I wasn't getting caught up on it. Every day was different. If I feel like I want to keep eating, I'm going to keep eating for maybe 10 hours. But now my 16 hours is going to be different the next day. That's how I was doing it personally. It's different recommendations, different people. But then, like I said, I went to the 1 meal a day. I was doing that. And 1 meal a day became secondary to me. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, now I'm only going to eat 1 meal a day. I moved on to every 48 hours. I got to 1 meal every 36 to 48 hours. I was able to get there. Right now where I am, it's 1 meal every 3 days. Somewhere around that 80 hour mark is my goal, or the goal that I've met, that I'm already currently in. Nothing is perfect. Like sometimes when you go that long without eating, like I was able to, one time I broke my fast, and then I went another 24 hours, and then I broke my fast again, and then you just eat ad libitum. You just gotta go. You just gotta say, okay, I'm just gonna eat. You know, now it's feast time, because your body can't take it. You know what I mean? So you'll go a day or two, you'll eat. You know, and then then your body starts saying, hey man, let's jump back into this fasting thing. You know what I mean? The same way that you look forward to eating, you look forward to points in your fast. You look forward to that 36-hour mark. Like, oh, I'm gonna feel damn good at 36 hours. You look forward to it. You know what I mean?
Set a goal.
Yeah, set a goal. So right now, I know for a fact, like I said, I'm a little over 24 hours. I know I can go 2 more days, and then I'll probably lift some weights.
We'll see.
Yeah, I'll lift some. I know I will. I know I have the energy for it. I have no problem.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'll get to about 72 hours. I'll probably lift some weights, and then I'll break my fast. This one last time, and then my goal is to go for another week. And then, and then I'll go from there. I'll reset my marker.
Right.
I'll reset my marker from there.
We're gonna have to check back in with you, do a part 2 of this, and see how it's going, because there's so much more to talk about. Yeah. This is, fasting is one thing, but we've done all kinds of other stuff. Got all kinds of things to talk about.
Yeah, and I mean, once I get there, I mean, I would like to do 21 days. I would like to do a 40-day fast, maybe once a year. And if I can incorporate that into my life for the rest of my life, I would feel good about my life.
There's no mountains to move to around here. You know that, right? You can't.
No, and that's the other thing. It's like it's changing your environment into the mountain.
Yep. Finding that inner peace within such a non-peaceful
making your bedroom into the monastery. It's that, and that's the trick in itself.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're gonna check back with you, man. I appreciate you coming on this episode, but I know it sounds like all good stuff, so we'll find out next episode.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right.